So we have breaking news coming out of Minnesota. ICE was carrying out an operation and some guy came up, confronted ICE, end up getting shot. Take a look.
At 9:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien, Jose Huerta Chuma. You can see this illegal alien on the screen to my left and right. That is Jose Huerta Chuma, whose criminal history includes domestic assault to intentionally inflict bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
So here you have a situation where Border Patrol carrying out their duties. Laws that were written by Congress saying, hey, Border Patrol, these are your responsibilities to arrest illegal aliens, get them out the country, the worst of the worst. We're talking about criminals, and that is a criminal that they were arresting. But you had some vigilantes, some leftists, who decided that they want to take matters into their own hand based on the statement just now. And this is what they've been told by leftist leaders, that it's okay, to be in the streets, to resist. And it seemed like he wanted to take matters into his own hand. You cannot see law enforcement, whether it's a police officer, a local police officer, whether it's a federal agent, whether it's Secret Service or the military, conducting their duties, and you want to confront them or intervene. This is just something that you don't do, because what you're going to have a situation like this, especially when you're armed, because they're going to perceive that as a threat. Because even the Border Patrol agent, 8 years of experience, that is a lot. I did 10 years in the military myself. He was a range safety officer. And whenever you're a range safety officer, you're one of the most qualified individuals when it comes to a certain weapon system. So this seemed to be a situation where individuals decided to take matters into their own hands. And you had the officer seem like he responded in kind to de-escalate, because they tried to essentially de-escalate and he violently resisted, right? And then a whole bunch of people started rioting. For what? What are you guys rioting for? Because if that guy wasn't in that situation, then he wouldn't have gotten shot. If he didn't try to confront Border Patrol that was doing their job. It's not like they're in the street doing something illegal and you want to take matters into your own hands while you're armed confronting Border Patrol. You just cannot do that. You just cannot do that. I mean, you can, but if you do that, you're going to fuck around and you're going to find out. So after all this went down, you had, I guess, Minneapolis police officers who showed up and, they had to flee the scene as well, because themselves couldn't control what was going on. And they're the ones that started this. Tim Walz himself and Jacob Fry, they're the ones that's telling people that it's okay to go out there and it's okay to agitate. It's okay to resist.
What I will tell you, and not to get further into the investigation, but DHS pulled out of the scene, leaving that to Minnesota State Patrol, Minneapolis. We did not have enough resources to be able to hold that ground safely, and we had to leave that scene. Because of the number of people that were available and the safety of those in the public and the safety of our teams. We were able to get there, but at that time we were not able to hold that scene to do a crime scene investigation.
And this is what happened. When you fuel these types of behavior where individuals can go and can riot, then it's going to turn around and it's going to hurt you, because Minneapolis police, they had to retreat because they couldn't control the situation. They couldn't control the crowd. This is why I personally think the National Guard need to be sent in. Send the National Guard in to get this situation under control. Get this state under control. Get these cities under control so ICE can go in there and do their job. So in other news, we have a poll that was done by CNN that shows that congressional leaders, Democratic leaders, are underwater with their voters. Take a look.
Take a look at how Democrats who disapprove of congressional Democratic leaders, hello, we're talking about 57% in January of 2026, the second highest disapproval rate for Democratic leaders from their own party on record. It's only beat by what we saw earlier on in this Congress when it was 61%. There's basically been no improvement. Democrats hate their own congressional leaders. These numbers are awful, awful, awful.
Yeah, as you can see, they're underwater with their base. We're talking about 57% disapproval, and this is congressional leadership, right? And I don't think it's just Congress. I think it's the Democratic Party as a whole, because ever since Kamala Harris and Tim Walz lost the election in 2024, there hasn't been anyone on the forefront with a proper message, right? With a winning message, because they're on the losing side of everything. We're talking about abortion. They're on the losing side. We're talking about transgenderism. They're on the losing side of that. We're talking about immigration, crime. They're on the losing side of every single issue. And there's no one with a proper message. The only person that you could argue that is out there making a whole bunch of noise is Gavin Newsom, right? But at the end of the day, he doesn't really have a message himself, right? He doesn't have a signature achievement from California to say, hey, this is why, you should elect me, or whatever the case may be. But we all know the left, they don't really care about achievement or results or anything like that. They care about what someone has to say, how they look, things like that, right? Even Gavin Newsom, recently, he went on the world stage. He went on the world stage in Davos. I don't know who invited him or sent him over there, but he went on the world stage talking a whole bunch of crap about the United States of America, right? About law enforcement, about ICE. Here, take a look.
Few things better symbolize the optics in the debate over ICE's tactics and Trump's deportation policies than these pictures. Specifically, these pictures and the uproar around U.S. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino's coat. The left, led by Gavin Newsom, claims Bovino is cosplaying Nazis. Look at the coat, they say. He is a Nazi. And the media pile-on began. The New York Times thought so much of his outfit, they did an entire story on it. The once proud gray lady now doing a fashion piece on immigration officials when a coat becomes a symbol of conflict. The irony. So last night, we went right to the man himself, asking Commander Bovino about his now famous coat, or infamous coat. The clip has since been played millions of times. Gavin Newsom commented, I believe he was talking about one of your trench coats, but you take a listen and respond.
Greg Bovino, dressed up. It's as if he literally went on eBay and purchased SS garb. Greg Bovino, secret police, private army, masked men, people disappearing, quite literally, no due process.
Yeah, as I said, my question is, what is Gavin Newsom doing in Davos? There's a whole bunch of issues going on in California. The cost of living is out of control. Homelessness is out of control. There's a whole bunch of fraud going on in California. The governor of a state literally is going to a foreign nation in front of a whole bunch of foreign leaders talking crap about an American patriot, someone who's literally out there in the street trying to get rid of the worst of the worst. We're talking about murders. We're talking about rapists. We're talking about terrorists, right? These are the individuals that ICE is trying to deport. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of a state that is riddled with fraud, corruption, is talking crap about these individuals. Take a look at Bovino's response.
That coat looked like it wasn't something you could find on eBay, I'm just saying.
That coat is definitely Border Patrol issue. I've had it over 25 years. I bought that as a young age in approximately 1999. 5-6 years ago, I wore that very coat, the one that he's talking about, to Commissioner Chris Magnus's coronation there at Customs and Border Protection headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Do me a favor, and our viewers will thank me for asking this, because we will, and we'll follow up on it tomorrow. Can you get us a picture of you in that coat at that ceremony?
I believe I can do that.
And he did. As promised, here is the coat, pictured at a Biden Department of Homeland Security ceremony in 2022.
Yeah, so a coat that was issued in 1929, right? that is what Gavin Newsom went on the world stage to talk about, calling Bovino Nazi and a whole bunch of different names. And that is the thing with the left. As I said, they don't have a message. They're on the losing side of every issue, and they're doing these things. They're saying things like this. That is why they're underwater with their base, right? But they just say a whole bunch of different things. Call people Nazi, call them racist, fascist, just to get their base riled up, right? And whenever you say stuff like this, you have a whole bunch of issues. You have people that take these things and take it to the streets, right? Which is why you see all these crazy things going on in Minnesota, right? For instance, there are a lot of areas in Minnesota where, you know, people are going to these cities, these blocks, setting up saying, hey, no one is welcome. You know, Americans aren't welcome. If you look a certain type of way, if you look like law enforcement or look to be driving certain vehicles. And here we have a story of a journalist who is literally trying to cover what's going on the ground, and these people started targeting them. Take a look.
We're not ICE. Why are you guys following us? And they leave like right when we get out of the car. We're not ICE. We're not ICE. We're following them because they were following us.
Well, you look suspicious as fuck.
Wait, so should people follow and harass any suspicious looking person? Why are you guys following us? We're not ICE.
Not ICE? Not in an ICE vehicle, right?
No.
Right, get in your truck and get the fuck out.
Why?
Because you need to go. Confirmed ICE.
We're not ICE.
Yeah, same to the people that you're abducting. Get out.
We're not because we're being followed. They're following us, and they came up. We didn't even know they were following us until they came up and said, we've been following you, reporter, independent journalist.
Go report something.
Okay.
Go to the airport.
We don't want people following us.
Go to the airport.
And hurting us when we get home.
They're not going to hurt you. They're going to stay right behind you. They're going to stay right
all
behind
the way
you.
back to where we're staying, right?
Great.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. Why we're Americans. Why are we being forced out of a neighborhood?
It is wild what's going on in America today. It is wild that Americans cannot go in American cities and walk the streets, walk the sidewalks or anything like that without being essentially, you know, stopped by these so-called vigilantes, right? These agitators, calling them ICE, calling them Nazis, calling them a whole bunch of different names, right? And local leaders, local government like Tim Walz and Jacob Fry, they're allowing these things to happen in Minneapolis and Minnesota, because it helps them. It helps them to hide the fraud that's going on there, right? Even thinking about the whole thing that started this whole thing, right? It was a fraud feeding our future. And the lady that was essentially, you know, charged for the entire thing, she's coming out and she's saying, well, the, the Attorney General Keith Ellison, right, and Tim Walz, they were in on it and they knew what was going on, which is why they don't want people to go in. They don't want journalists like Nick Shirley and other journalists to go in and expose what's going on, right? They don't want law enforcement in these cities to uncover the fraud that's going on. Take a look at what this woman had to say in regards to Tim Walz and Keith Ellison.
And a Fox News alert also in Minnesota, the convicted ringleader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bach. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bach tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bach, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in
It is crazy how much fraud is going on in Minnesota. And the question is, did they know? Did Tim Walz and Keith Ellison or even Jacob Fry at this point, did they know? And how much do they know? Right? Because it just doesn't make sense, the level of fraud that's been going on, that's been running rampant within the state. And it's just crazy that no official, no elected official knew about it. None of them. It is just convenient, right? Even when there were multiple whistleblowers highlighting what was going on, right? Those whistleblowers were retaliated against, right? And it's just convenient that when, this entire thing blew up, Tim Walz, he literally said he's not going to run for office anymore. And now they're trying to keep the federal government out. They're trying to keep people out, right? To protect who? It's to protect illegals. And also, in my opinion, it's to protect all the fraud that the illegals been committed. And this is Dr. Oz from the health department. He went through Minnesota, went through some records, see what was going on. And this is what he found. Take a look.
Behind me is the Griggs Midway building. It looks like a factory because it was a factory, a linen factory. They made cloth back there. Converted to an office building. You'll notice all those little signs there, and there's tons of little businesses inside. Roughly 400 Medicaid businesses were started in the building behind me over the last several years. They generated about $380 million of billing that you, the taxpayer, were putting up. That means roughly each business had $1 million of billing. It's an industrial area. There's no reason that you have a mother bring her child. You can't imagine getting extra business support. An autistic child probably wouldn't want to come here. You hear the noise. It's just not a hospitable place. The question is, how is it possible 400 businesses billing almost $400 million were able to thrive here? What did the owner of the business, this building, think was happening inside? Why did no one in the state figure out this was a concern? So you'll notice there's already a watch group that's observing us. They had people in the cars taking pictures of us. They're calling around trying to find out what's going down.
Yeah, it is just crazy, the level of fraud that's going on there, and how did no one not know about it, right? The amount of fraud going on. And Dr. Oz, I say he's doing good work getting on the ground, showcasing what's going on. And it is crazy how a government official is on the ground from the federal government, Dr. Oz, and then we have private vehicles following him around. Like, we need to investigate what's going on there, right? There should be no way, as an American, especially an elected official, you are in American streets and then you have private vehicles following you around, like some random vehicles following you around. So yeah, just let me know what you think in the comment in regards to the shooting, all the fraud, everything, in regards to Gavin Newsom being on the world stage, neglecting California. Just let me know what you think. And if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel if you want more breakdown and news like this and commentary. Thank you.